I just released my latest EP on the label Tronic by Christian Smith. That's raw techno for you. It's groovy, it's fast, it has some chord steps, it has breakbeats, and in this video I want to show you how I did it. We're gonna look at two tracks, Mont Vera and Altered Feeling, and how the grooves in those tracks work in the original Ableton session. So let's waste no time and start. So the first of the two tracks we want to have a look at is Mont Vera. It's a very nice track. I really love it because I made it completely inspired by my journey through Costa Rica, which is just a beautiful country and beautiful nature. I love nature in general, and therefore it was just natural to me as a musician to kind of work it into music. And I've used some field recordings here, for example, here in the textures, but this is not what this is about. We want to talk about the groove of this track, right? Especially the groove. And yeah, it's different than usual on the channel. Usually I would rebuild a groove. I don't have to rebuild it. It was my own release, so we can look at the session and just dive deep. So maybe we start with kick and bass. We have this this very simple kick actually. You're gonna see there's not too much processing on here because this track is very raw, and it just makes sense that there's not too much processing going on. Then I'm using this reverse sound. The waveform looks crazy, don't worry about it. It's just there to give the kick this little swish in the beginning. And this is where the groove comes in, right? So it's a tom, it's a 909, right? There's also not too much done, just cutting away a little bit in the very lows because we have the rumble underneath. And it's this kind of pattern. And you can see here I've put swing 16th 54. So the last number is the strength, right? Of course, the 16th is about which kind of note value is changed, right? You can also have an 8th swing like this, where you essentially move the second of 8 notes. But in the 16th swing, what happens is you move every second 16th a little like this, right? So this would be what it could look like. It could also be much more or much less, and 54 is not too much. So if I do it like this, you can see now there's this little distance, right? So it's just a little bit off grid, and this is what's very, very important for this track. You would see it on different elements as well, like the hi-hats, for example. And of course, this works together with the rumble. And you can see here also this going down by 4 notes. It's also very important to change the rhythm a little bit, right? You have like a repetition. It's actually kind of the same rhythm, but here it changes it up. So every second repetition, it's like just this little movement. Okay, we go back up. It's like kind of resetting the brain. And you can see that this is some kind of Latin rhythm, kind of. We have the offbeat and then those two. So we could make it more Latin like this, or maybe even like this. All right, this would be completely Latin. So this, oops, change something here. So this is the same. Adding this one just adds a little bit more energy, maybe in techno, just a little more rolling feeling. And then like this, of course, I also deleted one note, I think, this one. Yes, and there we are. This is our kick and bass. So in the hi-hats, those are the different layers, and just groove-wise, I think, once again, like we are using this, right, the 45/16 swing, and it's very important for this track that you have hi-hats on different layers, on different strength levels, kind of. This one is kind of mid-rangey, right, kind of resonant. This one is plucky as hell, man, and also very mid-rangey. This one does almost sound like a real hi-hat on a drum kit, and it's also a sample actually. Interesting. Also nice to see I'm using the envelopes here, the modulation, to carve out a little bit of space for the offbeat. Right, actually it would be like this. But I don't want this offbeat because I already have offbeats. Then I have this very, very strong 16th hi-hat, which through Shaperbox gets very wide. You can see the groove here also. And yeah, one of my favorite tools for hi-hat panning. And another offbeat, this time a much stronger one than this one. The important thing is you can kind of hear every hi-hat, even if they're playing at the same time. Every hi-hat has its place. Some are lower, some are higher, some are more up front, some are more in the back, some have a bit more reverb, some don't. Yes, this is how the groove in the hi-hat comes together, and this is, yeah, supported by some percussions. So first of all, of course, just a simple clap, combination of a 909 and this thing here, which is actually a tom. Very interesting. I took away the low end because I wanted this noisiness. Yeah, together with a clap, and then some breakbeat loop underneath. Of course, we don't want the low end here. And then some field recording from Costa Rica. To fill the rhythm. What we also want to talk about is the chord steps in this track. Yes, they are very, very, very often used, those kind of chord steps in raw techno. Also on Tronic there's a lot of releases with a sound like this. Yes, and this is the full pattern. You can see it's kind of simple, right? So what we're having here is a G minor chord, and then here we have the sus2 note. This would be a G sus2, right? So I put the sus2 note one higher, and the chord has a name, some name. It should be something like G minor 9. Is it 9? It should be G minor 9, I think. But don't add me on this. I'm not a music theory guy. Okay? If anyone knows, tell us in the comments, and we're gonna be happy. Then here, this is essentially an inversion of a chord, so it's a C minor chord, but I inverted it like this to have this stable G in the subs, and then yes, so this inversion, this is actually, what would this be then? I have some music theory knowledge. So this would be a C minor 7, right? As I said, if someone in the comments knows, please tell us what those chords are, and for me it's more like trying what I like, and this one I like really much. And I want to show you the sound, and it's it's available for you as a download. That's crazy. Just giving away sounds that I used in my released productions. But yes, I want you to use a sound like this, and I also want to show you that this sound is actually not too complicated. It's you have to put it in your own kind of style, right? But it's just two saw waves. One is unison, one is not. So I have a little bit of width, but not too much. Also adding some sub oscillator here, some square, to just add some more harmonics to the sound. And then I have this kind of resonant filter here. And that's it. A little bit of distortion. Not the most complicated sound. And of course it works so well because it has this nice plucky envelope, right? Without this plucky envelope it would be a little bit boring. But this is very cool. Also notice that we have some noise, kind of, but the noise is down in level. How does this work? Well, the noise is modulating the filter cutoff. That's a very nice trick to use noise as a modulator. It will add a certain amount of noise even if the filter is closed because it's not going through the audio. We don't need to explain this in a physical way. What you have to know, use noise on the cutoff as a modulator, like this, and it will create this very nice texture. I explained this in a bunch of videos before, so if you want, check those out in the sound design music production folder on our channel. Yes, and we have the support pad, which was on my Micro Freak, I think. Yes, Freak. Plus June, which means I used my June pedal for chorus. And then this little plug. You can see how everything basically just opens up together, but yeah, this is, you have to make those little steps, like opening up, going back down. We have this throughout the track several times. Like here, we've been on a higher energy level, come back down a little bit. And then also, once again, like actually the chords fall back down a little bit, even though in the hi-hats we give more energy. So it's always about this energy traits to keep the track interesting. And yeah, essentially this is what happens. We build this up. In the beginning we only use the root chord, and this is how my track Mont Vera works and grooves. So, and the second track I want to look at with you is my track Altered Feeling, also part of the EP, and it's very interesting because it's a breakbeat, right? You can hear this from the very beginning. And it has this 303 running. We only want to talk about the beat actually here. I just want to show you a little bit how you can also use breakbeats and what I did here to make this work. But just interesting as a food of thought, completely unrelated. This recording of a 303, it's not the most complicated sound. It's just G's playing all the time and every second has an accent. But this recording I did for a completely different track, and at some point I didn't like the track anymore, and I was like, okay, screw it, I don't need this track. That's at least how I work. Like if I don't like a track at some point, I would just say, okay, why would I waste my time, right? Let's just do something else. But if there's something that I think is actually very good and maybe I can use it in another track or so, I'm gonna save it, and that's what I did with this 303. I called it 303 polyrhythmic G minor 137 BPM, and maybe one day I'm doing a track like this and I think, wow, polyrhythmic 303 in G minor would be perfect. Right? Or maybe I hear it and I think, oh, now I have an idea. And this is how I did this track actually. I heard the sample once again and I thought, wait, that would be perfect with the breakbeat. And this is how I came up with Altered Feeling. So maybe we dive... Well, first of all, what happens? What happens in the beat? We have a switch, right? We go from breakbeat to fall to the floor and then back to breakbeat. And I think this is what makes this track that very, very, very I wouldn't say danceable. Breakbeats are danceable as well, but maybe if you're a DJ, you know this this kind of thing that happens when you play breakbeats, that a lot of people, maybe like 50% of the dance floor at some point, will be like, I don't know how to dance to this. Let's get a drink. Let's let's talk or whatever. So a lot of people are very confused if you play breakbeats. At least that's my experience. And what this track is doing so well is that it switches between breakbeat and fall to the floor. So every time I play it, it starts here somewhere, right? I change basses. This is my main track now. I'm here. And people are a little bit like, some people are like, yeah, finally somebody's playing a breakbeat, and the other half of the room is like, oh no, what is this? I can't dance. And then it drops on the floor to the floor, and I got the full room again, right? And then if it switches back to breakbeat, it's like, okay, it's some kind of different beat. The people are a little bit more open-minded to it. At least that's my experience. And then you have another drop on fall to the floor and go back to the breakbeat. So it was a decision I made. I did it in other tracks as well. I didn't release them, but I had this, that was not, the idea is not exclusive to this track, Altered Feeling, but rather I did this before, and I think for this track it even works better, because it's actually a very danceable track, and inserting this extra energy on the drop is a way to, yeah, to boost such a track. We want to look at the breakbeat though. I just want to show you a little bit. Like, first of all, this is a very straight breakbeat, right? The only two kicks that are not on fall to the floor are those two. So we're like boom, 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 boom. So 3 of the 4 kicks are actually still fall to the floor. And then there's a little variation where we essentially double this. We double this, right? It's very easy. Rumble, of course. What I want to show you is a little bit in the percussions and the hi-hats, right? What I did. So 8th and 16th, shake and right, nothing special. Offbeats. This could be a normal track once again, but this one is very helpful because it's like a real drum player would do it. Like, he would play some closed hi-hats, and then at some point he would have this very open hi-hat. Maybe he would do it like this, like more often, but for me it was perfectly fine like this. Right, and what does every breakbeat need? Of course, a clap or a snare. In this track I've used a clap. I think snare is actually a little bit more common, but of course if you hear this, it sounds kind of off rhythmic, but the clap it brings everything back into the rhythm, right? So what we have then here is some rolling kick. It's just to give a little bit more rolling feeling. This also very much helps to give the breakbeat a bit more energy. And then here I've used another breakbeat sample. And I want this to have those fill hits. Chuck, chuck, right? Those fill hits are very important for a breakbeat, and I think using like original breakbeats makes a lot of sense. Like this, it doesn't have a lot of aliveness. This gives it a lot of alive feeling. And then finally, okay, we have some reverse clap, also very cool technique. So what you do is you record your clap, maybe the reverb of your clap, depends, and you reverse it and you put a little part of it right in front of your clap. So you get this little push and pull feeling. It's very cool. That's not, of course, that's not only in breakbeats. It also works in normal beats or any kind of music, but for this track it was very helpful as well. And then we have those very strong snare fills. So essentially they are doing what this breakbeat loop is doing, those fill hits, but now stronger, right? Much louder. They just fill the space. That's why they're called fills, right? And those are all the percussions that I've used here already. And like this, you can pretty easily switch between the breakbeat and the non-breakbeat sections. So, and I shouldn't play too much of the song because YouTube is maybe gonna disable it. So that was just a little insight in my new EP on Tronic. You can check it out, of course, but this video was mainly about showing you how those raw grooves can be set up. In this track, for example, I haven't used any groove, like those groove features of Ableton, but therefore I used quite a lot of fill elements, while in the other track I used a lot of groove, and I kind of made it like a very groovy but kind of usual beat, right? So it always really depends, and those are just some completely different yet somehow alike tracks that I wanted to show you. And yeah, they are out for 2 weeks. Check them out if you like to, and either way, I hope you have a good time and keep making music.